Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
Where else did you go?
Put out a bunch of.
That's when the it's just hot there.
I went through real estate.
I just went straight from When did you drop that? Sorry, I didn't get to put mine.
Hey guys, thank you for coming. We're gonna start soon. Josh is actually finishing up an interview, but then he'll be in and we'll get it kicked off. But thank you for being here.
Cool.
Cool, thanks.
And it was an intern program, she was like, we're gonna have a TV show, and one of the girls asked me was Allie, and she was from the Baer. All the other girls were dressed like, really structured, like international high-end design. She came in with her Baer girls, but she was like, I put coats on in the house, yeah, the bow right there, whatever it was. It was really cute, so I love her, she's made it to the top five.
Basically, it's like you can use it's like a group text, yeah, you just put like AdSense, your stats as far as every hour.
Do you live here in Sonoma?
Once you have a squad, you can search
it's not, yeah.
So I sent it to Alex. I was like, yo, they are those guys. This is my so I literally just said, I was like, alright, that's gonna be a lot of work for myself. Like my squad.
And nobody goes, what budget? And so he kind of says, you guys do that, and then we come in and we go, hey, all you people.
Kind of interesting. We just got some similarities to it.
So I think that's
Thanks for
We're in the messiest here. I went from New York to Minneapolis. And then finance, I've been in hopefully we
And it's funny because there's so many kids and adults in my apartment,
Yeah, you know, it's like,
My
why, career was always kind of demanding. I mean, you know, like, to try and do all that we did.
I do work for myself for the last 6
Yeah,
years.
so it's, you know, it's just a little.
I just spent lost my job in Europe, and I was
Sometimes you guys went to right now.
But I do want to go to, I think that'd be a great place to read. Yeah, since they monitor it, right? Why
Supposed to get the outdoors from like
Try taking your left ears off.
I thought it was.
Drive across the river. Did you go to that? Really calm my butt all the time. I'm like, where do you feel? There's a heart rate here. I keep trying to
Very easy. I wanted to run the
Right, exactly. Yeah, we narrowed it down to San Diego.
That's a good way of seeing it with music.
It's like every day is after a while you're gonna be like, it just seemed like 5 years ago we were gonna be probably have
Oh, really?
Yeah, you'll see like the flutters, like they stop. It was
Well, right now, if I were
Sorry.
I like this already. Comics.
All right. Hey everybody, I'm gonna play a 90-second, pretty short video just to start to give you a quick overview of Capital Factory, and then we'll get started.
Austin is really becoming a well-respected tech hub, and Capital Factory is at the center of that.
We came in with this idea of like, we're going to start a company together because we start companies together.
There's so much going on here, and there's just the right mix of people here.
There's the right investors, the right employees, like there's the right peers.
The Capital Factory has events that run pretty much every day.
You know, our guys after the meeting are like, hey, by the way, if anybody's looking to hire, you know, come talk to us. No, actually, come over to our office. It's another 40 feet here.
The entire growth of your startup to probably your first 20 employees is contained within the Capital Factory.
So whatever you're recruiting for, whatever tech stack or platform or hardware or software, or even 3D printing now, there's almost always those people coming to your office on a day-to-day basis. And you just sit around at nighttime, they'll probably give you free pizza and beer.
And you want to demo your product after the event. Well, you're here at Capital Factory.
One of the coolest meetups that I've been to at Capital Factory is the Women at Austin meetup, because I was able to network with other women entrepreneurs.
working with other people who are in the same spot as you or were there 6 months ago or going to be there 6 months from now is really cool.
The entire atmosphere is wonderful. The meeting rooms that you can reserve.
Here's a really good office environment that we take care of everything. Oh, by the way, there's free snacks. Oh, by the way, there's this managed conference room situation.
Well, one of the best resources here at Capital Factory is the office hours.
The Capital Factory Mentor Network is now so big, and the number of people in almost every industry vertical are there now, and most of those guys are entrepreneurs themselves.
You meet mentors, you meet other entrepreneurs. Like for us in particular, I met my co-founder here.
I met my co-founder up here.
There's just a real critical mass down here.
Our developers went to one of the development meetups and we met our newest developer, Kyle, there, and we hired him.
The Capital Factory was with us for 2 years of going from that sort of ambition to the actual reality of having a successful company with like significant amount of money raised and like a high functioning team.
You know, technology is just as much about community as anything else.
You become part of this national family of people.
All right, welcome everybody. This is Intro to the Austin Startup Scene. How many of you are from Austin? Couple, and then I assume the rest. How many not from Austin? Most of you? Awesome, great. Normally, we do this every month. It's normally for people that are already here, so excited to have a bunch of people that aren't. I'm gonna send a tweet out about this, and I took a picture of you guys. Anybody want to get tagged in it? You guys have any Twitter handles? Shout out.
Can we see the picture first?
You're small. It's just a picture of the audience. What do you?
Rooster Tail, R-E-W-S-T-E-R.
R-E-W-S-T-E-R.
T-A-L-E. A-J-M-C-C.
Rooster Tail?
Yeah.
R-E-W-S-T-E-R.
T-A-L-E.
T-A-O-L-E. Man, you got all kinds of spelling things going on there. Okay, I got it. What else?
H-A-M-C-C.
H-A-M-C-C. Of course, you're at the bottom. In Chinese?
No. A is an Andrew.
Okay, that's H-A-M-C-C-E.
H-A-M-C-C.
Yeah, that one's not coming up. But double check that one while I...
R-F-L. P-R-R.
That one I got, Raphael.
Pretorius B-I-G. P-R-E-T. O-R-I-U-S. Then B_I_G.
P-R-I-E.
E-T. P-R-E-T. O-R.
E-T-O-R-I-U-S.
Alright, so that's a complicated one.
U-S. B-I-G.
B_I_G.
All right, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Got it. These are all guys. What about the ladies?
I'm Kristen B. Kristen with an E. 17.
K-R-I-S-T-E-N. Kristen what?
B.
B.
17.
All right.
UX_Allie, A-L-L-I-E.
I feel like the Powell.
Yeah, P-O-W.
I feel like the Twitter names are like the most revealing introductions of all of this.
Shore, S-C-H-O-R-R-E. No underscores.
O-O-R-E?
Yeah. O-R-R-E.
No, O-R-R-E. Eric? No.
No, Chris. S-C-H.
S-C-H-O-R-R-E.
Yep.
Must be doing something wrong. I'm not feeling that one either. Any more?
H major P. Exactly as it sounds.
Hayden.
X Autry, A-U-T-R-E-Y. X Autry Holsch.
A-U-D?
A-U-T.
T. R-E-Y.
Yeah.
Thanks. Xavier?
Yes.
Okay.
Mike Buse, M-I-K-E-B-U-S-E.
Two more. Should we try yours again? Did you check yours?
Jason R. Haas, H-A-A-S. Daryl, D-A-R-R-Y-L, T-J-K.
Okay, we got it. Sorry for those I couldn't find. I'm sure it was me typing something wrong, but I don't want to make it take too long. All right, great. So hopefully you guys got that tagged, and you can tweet it or reshare it or whatever. While I'm talking, if you want to tweet anything, I'm at Joshua Baer. This whole thing we do is ATX Startup Scene, and hopefully, you know, we do a pretty good job of filling this up every time because people know about it. So hopefully you'll find one useful thing in this whole thing that you think is worth sharing with somebody else, so that other people find out about it too. So here are the the different questions that we try to answer in this talk. There's always a lot more questions than we can answer, but what's different about Austin? How did we become a tech hub? There's a little history lesson. What's different about this or special about it? And then how do you plug in? How do you know what's going on? And a lot of questions people ask all the time. They want to know, how do you get a job here? How do they find co-founders? How do you meet investors? Where do you go? Things like that. So we'll talk about all those things, and then we'll just open it up to Q&A where you guys can ask anything you want. So how many of you went on the tour? These are my questions. Only 2 of you. And so I guess born in Austin, moved to Austin. Anyone living in Silicon Valley now? Anyone that has lived in Silicon Valley? Not too many. Who actually has a startup they're working on? Okay. Is anyone that came here because they want to work at a startup? They're looking for a job? A lot of you. Okay, good. Who would get, like, tech person, business person? Who thinks they're a tech person? And then business? Did I miss something? Anybody not raise their hand for anything I asked? No? Okay. All right, I'm going to cover a bunch of stuff. Now I'll try to talk pretty fast because there's a lot to go over. You don't need to write it down. Like I said, the group for this is atxstartupscene.com. The deck is on SlideShare. Everything we do in here is recorded and streamed over the internet. So there's a YouTube channel with all the previous talks. So I do this talk every month, and it changes a lot. And there's different versions of it up there. The one thing you want to get started, which if you had a phone or a computer, you might open right now, is this last link, this bit.ly plug into ATX Startup Scene. And that's like almost like a top 10 list or like a set of instructions of literally like, follow these people on Twitter, go to these events, do this thing, sign up for this email list, all the things you need to do to plug into what's going on here. So what's different about Austin versus other places? Honestly, one thing is just that we're one of the fastest growing cities in the country, and we have been for a couple of years, and that's something that that feeds a lot of other things going on here. And why are we the fastest growing city? It's because, well, everywhere you look, everyone says that we're one of the best cities to live. In fact, Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, and Houston, those 4 cities are usually 4 cities on the top of any top 10 list that shows up there. And the same things that make it a great place for people to live and make people want to move here make startups and companies want to be here, because one of the biggest challenges you have in growing your company is talent, is hiring people. And so being somewhere where lots of people are going and smart people are is super helpful in helping to grow your company. The Kauffman Foundation, which is a nonprofit that works with, supports, and studies entrepreneurship all over the world, in particular, they rank all the startup communities every year, and last year they actually ranked Austin the #1 startup community in the US. So based on number of entrepreneurs and new entrepreneurs and density and a bunch of other things that come into that. So what's different about Austin? The first thing is Austin's really a bootstrap first mentality kind of place. And actually I should caveat this to say that I don't know where else you're and since you're not all from Silicon Valley, actually the things that are unique about Austin really aren't that unique about Austin. They're unique about anywhere that's not Silicon Valley, but everyone thinks it's unique about them. And so I think this is probably true of most places that aren't Silicon Valley, but it's really a bootstrap first kind of place. And what that means is you're expected to get something done on your own first before people are going to throw a lot of money at you. Number of reasons for that. One thing is just the cost of doing a startup is dropping so dramatically that that's great. It's democratizing. It makes it so anybody can do it, but it raises the bar for like what you're expected to do first before people are going to go give you money. And so you should probably, there's different businesses and different industries, but if you're building a software product, there's a good chance you should probably be able to build a basic version of it that works and get it in front of some people and get some people using it, get some feedback before you're going to get much funding. Going hand in hand with that is being revenue focused. If you're most of the startups that get funded here and get worked on here, they've got a pretty clear revenue model. Many of them are, what you'd say, B2B, they sell to businesses. There are some that are B2C, but if they are B2C, they've got a really clear way of making money and really clear unit economics. An example of a B2C company here is called Favor. I don't know if anybody's used Favor to get their lunch, but it's like a Postmates like delivery type thing. That's a consumer business, but people pay for it. It's really clear how they make money. Like that kind of business can do really well. If you want to build an app where you don't have any plan for how you're going to make money and all you're going to do is get a lot of people to use it and then hope someone's going to buy it, That's possible. I'm not saying that's a bad kind of business. It'd be very hard to get that business funded here. There'd be a very, very high bar for traction, for kind of growth and usage and things like that in order to get that funded here. People move here generally for quality of life. That's why they're choosing to move here. All kinds of people move here from all different places and all different stages, but I'd say if I had to try to stereotype it, the most common people I meet, particularly here in the entrepreneurial community, they're in their kind of mid-30s, maybe early 40s. They're starting to have a family. They realize they're never going to own a home in California. They realize that the schools suck out there, that while they do want to work hard, that's not the only thing in their life. And so they move here, because they think this is the place I want to live, the place I want to, have a family and have, spend the rest of my life. There's actually some trade-offs to that. I'll tell you. I mean, honestly, it's not all roses. I think that one of the challenges in trying to do a really ambitious startup and grow it here is that people who move here for quality of life don't work the same hours that somebody in Silicon Valley does. And that's what I hear from quite a few people that compare them. I don't think anybody here is lazy or doesn't work very hard, but it's it's harder to find people that are willing to really put the same kind of extreme in that you really need for a startup to be successful. And then social capital is really important here, and that's basically the idea that you build up karma or credit or something like that by going and helping other people out and being part of the community. And in Austin, where it is such a great community, it's growing so quickly, that is something that's really important, and it's something that if you're new to the community, that's a great way to plug in, is to go find ways to help out, to be part of something, to volunteer, and to meet other people, and I think you'll find that goes a long way. And finally, Austin really has this rising tide mentality. Being the fastest growing city in the country for a few years, having all these great things going on, there's this feeling that things are getting better, that things are improving, that for me to do better, it's not a zero-sum game. Like, I actually do better if other people do better in Austin. It's going to be easier for me to raise money if other people are raising money. It's going to be easier for me to hire people and be successful if other people are growing and being successful. And it's not like that in a lot of places. And it's something that's really special that we have here right now. So here's a quick history lesson. I should warn you that I haven't read any history books, and I'm not a historian. This is just my version of the history lesson. This is from me talking to a whole bunch of people, but I have talked to a bunch of people, and I'm pretty sure this is a pretty good summary. And if you talk to everyone you can find here in Austin, I think most people are going to bring it back to this guy. His name's George Kosmetsky, and he was the entrepreneur who founded a very large, successful computer company called Teledyne. Then he came here to Austin. I'm not sure if he was already in Austin, but he was here in Austin, and he got involved in the University of Texas. He was teaching at the business school. He founded IC Squared, which is a big innovation center, and through that, the Austin Technology Incubator, which is one of the first incubators in the country, and he did a bunch of other great things. But in particular, he worked with a few other people. Admiral Bobby Inman, who I just met for the first time 2 days ago here at South by Southwest. I can't believe it's taken me this long. Who used to run the CIA, and then as he retired, started to get involved in running these large research organizations, which I'll talk about. And Pike Powers, who's also still here in Austin, who is another person that was working really closely with George Kosmetsky. And the three of them, and I'm sure many other people, all got together, and they bid on this big RFP for this research institution called MCC, which stood for the Microelectronics and Computer Consortium. And this was back in the 80s, when our biggest concern wasn't the Russians and it wasn't the Chinese, it was the Japanese. That they were like out innovating us, and they were going to design better chips and computers and other things like that. And so a bunch of big companies got together and put together a war chest of a whole bunch of money to create this research consortium to go help us be more competitive with the Japanese. And just like when they want to figure out where the Olympics are going to be, they have an RFP, and different companies, different cities compete to be where that goes. All these cities were competing to be the place where MCC went. And a lot of those gentlemen that I mentioned, like I said, many other people, worked really hard to make sure Austin won that bid. And that, I think, was really one of the first kind of seminal events that really established the tech community here, brought in a lot of people and resources and talent. There were a few other big companies here, like IBM and maybe one or two others, but that really was a big milestone for Austin. Here is part of the next one.
This is the story of the little room over the pizza place at 315 Chestnut Street, the modest first-floor bedroom in Tallinn, Estonia, and the dusty basement at 1406 35th Street. It is the story of the old dining room table at 25th and Hoffman Avenue, the southbound bus barreling down I-95, and the second floor above the strip mall at Roval and El Camino.
This magic moment,
It is the story of where every great idea begins,
so different and so new.
where those with endless vision and an equal amount of audaciousness believed they had the power to do more, time and time again. At Dell, we're honored to be part of some of the world's great stories. Stories that began much the same way ours did, in a little dorm room, number 2713.
This magic moment.
So Dell didn't pay me to play that, but Dell is one of the biggest forces here in Austin. And if we didn't have that white building there right in front of us, we'd be able to see the towers of the University of Texas where Michael Dell started his company. That company went on to obviously become one of the biggest companies in the world. He's one of the richest people in the world, and that had a big impact on Austin. In addition to all the things he's done to support the city, like he put the Dell Children's Hospital and the new teaching hospital and the Jewish Community Center and a lot of other things that have the Dell name on it. Dell did another thing for Austin, which was Dell created Dellionaires, which is what they called them back then, which were people who became millionaires working at Dell, and lots of people became millionaires working at Dell as it grew into a big company. And anytime any company goes through this rapid growth and starts small and becomes really big over the course of 10 or 20 years, there's a virtuous cycle that's pretty incredible. Those people, they develop all these skills, they meet people, they're inspired, they realize it's possible, they see customers, they see customer problems, they form teams that know how to work together, and then people hopefully make a lot of money. And so after that all happens, there's a great cycle that comes out of that then creates a big success story, creates a bunch of angel investors. The people from that company go off to go start a whole bunch more companies, and hopefully that whole thing starts all over again. And that's great. The only problem with this cycle is it takes about 10 years to go like one time around the circle. So it's a decades-long thing. And Austin's, we've got a couple turns around the circle. We've got a couple, Dell was one of the first ones, and then there have been, more recent companies I'll talk about. But that's a big part of what makes it going. And so Silicon Valley is like, 4 turns ahead of us on that circle, where they, 40 years more of this happening than in Austin. But we seem to be going, I think, on a similar path. So here's a company, another big company that started in Austin in the 90s. And just an example of this, and this slide is literally probably 10 years old, so it'd be much bigger if we were to go redo it. But this is showing all of the different companies that came out of Tivoli. So all the people from the teams at Tivoli that went and started other companies and VC firms and other things like that. And this is just one company, and like I said, it actually probably would be a lot bigger if we extended it out today. So it really does happen. Then there's a lot of other examples. Trilogy is one of them. HomeAway, Bazaar Voice, Indeed, Retail Me Not. These are all recent, multi-billion-dollar companies that have had big success stories here, and then gone on to spawn dozens and dozens of other companies that came out of them. So here are some of the other up-and-coming companies, some of the smaller ones that might be one of those big IPOs next. And then we also have tons of really big companies in town. We have the second largest headquarters for Apple here. Google has a huge presence here. Facebook has a really big office here. So lots of other companies, IBM and Microsoft and others with a really big presence here in Austin. So what's actually, if you had to pick just a few things to highlight about Austin, here are the things that I'd probably start with. South by Southwest, which we're all here obviously for now. It's the biggest time of the year. It's when everything kind of comes in. Startup Week. Google's presence here is pretty hard to miss. The university is a key part of any big startup city. And then of course Capital Factory, where we are today. So South by Southwest, I don't have to say too much about it because you're all here for it. But it's been going on for I think almost 30 years now. It's just an incredible force for all of Austin, and it's the time when Austin's put up on a stage and people come from all over the world to be here, and it's really just our busiest time of the year. It's the Super Bowl here, and so really lucky to have it. I think Austin has really helped South by Southwest, and South by Southwest has really helped Austin. It's been a really good relationship for a long time. In the fall, we have another event that kind of complements this. That's Austin Startup Week. We do that the week between the 2 weekends of the Austin City Limits Music Festival, and that's a celebration all focused on Austin, where South by Southwest isn't actually really focused just on Austin. Startup Week's all about Austin and the startup community here, and really celebrating all the great things that happen every week in Austin in the startup community, and putting it up to highlight it, to encourage other people that might want to move here or join companies here, and really tying the startup community together. And in both those events, we do one of the biggest parties at South by, and then we do it again during the crawl, during Startup Week, which is the Startup Crawl. Did any of you guys go on the Startup Crawl on Thursday? One or two of you? And that is basically this massive party with usually more than 10,000 people. This year we had 99 startups, and basically all the startups downtown throw a party at the same time. It's a massive recruiting event. Part of it's to get people who are coming in for South by to meet the companies that are here and places they could go work. And a big part of it also was just giving it away for local companies to have a presence and be the star of the show at South by Southwest, when normally it's like this year it's McDonald's and other really big companies that are hard to compete with. And at this event, it's one of the biggest events, and the startups are the star of the show. So that's another great event that really ties the startup community together. So Austin and Capital Factory are really happy to be a Google Tech Hub. Google has, as I said, a really big presence here, but they also have a presence all over the world where they sponsor different tech hubs. And for them, a tech hub is really meant to be a community center that brings the startup community together. In addition to providing financial support to help us do all the things that we do here to support the community, it gives all of our startups a direct pipeline into Google. We've got somebody to call, someone to help them, access to their Google Cloud platform and free services for a bunch of the startups. And then also there's a network made out of all these places, so that if any of our members go to get any of these other cities, they have a passport that lets them go and co-work there for free, have a desk and a place to sit, and probably more importantly, meet people who are going to introduce them to other people that are there. Because that's a big part of what we're all about. And so we're really excited that Google has such a strong presence here, and that we're able to be that pipeline or that connection. Austin was also the second city to receive Google Fiber. That's being rolled out across the city still now. And that was really awesome. That was, for me, a great lesson in the power of competition. Google announced that service well before it ever came to market, probably more than a year before they rolled out the first service. And it was amazing to see how much our internet got better even before we actually ever got any Google Fiber. And so just within a few months of them announcing it, AT&T announced that they were going to release their gigabit service before Google Fiber came to market. So apparently they could, they just were waiting. And Grande Internet, which is a local internet company, they rolled out a gigabit service to their customers. And I have Time Warner at my house, and I didn't do anything, and just magically overnight, my internet got twice as fast. I didn't have to didn't get charged any extra. And that all really happened, and that all happened before anybody had any Google Fiber. So that was amazing. That's the power of competition and part of Google's power to move the market. And it was pretty awesome. So I'm looking forward to getting Google Fiber. I think it'll be really great. We're looking forward to getting it here at Capital Factory. But even though I don't have it, I'm still benefiting from it greatly, and I think lots of other people are. And I think we'll probably have a similar effect from Google's autonomous cars. We've got Google's driverless cars. We're also the second city to have those driving on the roads. And so they're testing out these cars on the roads and really hoping that this is one more step towards Austin being one of the first cities where we have real cars that we can all get in on the roads, helping to push that forward and address some of the big traffic challenges that we and I think most cities have. So another big asset is the University of Texas. It's like I said, it's just north of us, right behind that building right there. The university is one of the largest universities in the country, and it's really diverse. It says, they say every great startup city has to have a great university behind it. It's the The computer science school is the largest graduating computer science class in the country, and it's one of the top 10 in the nation. Also have a massive engineering school that's separate from that, that's also world class, and most of those people that I see end up being programmers anyway too. So really, really awesome talent pipeline into the companies and other things that are going on here. And is that going to play a video? I teach a class for student entrepreneurs at UT called Longhorn Startup.
Longhorn Startup is designed to give student entrepreneurs the opportunity to work on their startup while they're in school and get real course credit for graduation.
I'm a biology major. I'm an MBA student and also earning my master's in advertising.
I'm studying electrical engineering.
I'm a junior film major and computer science minor.
We've brought in some incredible speakers to meet with our students, like Michael Dell and Brett Hurt and Mark Cuban.
We have a lot of great presenters come.
The speakers are really fantastic.
When you've got a startup that's real, it's time to get involved in the lab. And the lab takes the seminar to a whole new level by giving you a bunch more credit, connecting you with local mentors, and giving you lots of time to work on your startup with your peers.
I wanted to get some real-world business experience before I graduated.
When I signed up for the class, I had to start defending my idea and my business model right then.
In addition to getting time to work on their startup, they get matched up with local entrepreneur mentors that work with them to improve their pitch, to focus them in the right direction, and to help them get it pointed towards funding and acceleration.
A lot of the acceleration that we've had so far wouldn't have been possible without this class.
We've had some of the greatest mentors.
I mean, the access to like Josh and Bob and Baer and just the entire mentor network.
They're always so knowledgeable and so helpful and always willing to give us so much support that I think not only has been invaluable, it's just been fun.
This class has linked me with a mentor that has just become an angel to us.
And it's always been a fun experience just because they're also fun people.
And you get to talk to those people and ask them questions and kind of get a glimpse into how successful people made it to where they are.
Get this kind of insider knowledge, learning what it means to make a company, to make a startup work.
There are a lot of great resources on campus for student entrepreneurs. But it's also great for them to be able to get off campus and go to Capital Factory, where they're surrounded by other real entrepreneurs that are working on their startups and learning from each other.
I'm so pleased to have Capital Factory.
It's such a great place. That's where we meet up with some of our mentors.
It's a beautiful place to work, and it's a hub of entrepreneurship in Austin.
You know, I started my first company when I was in college, but we didn't have any of these kinds of support structures. We had an entrepreneurial center, we had business courses, but nothing like this that could give me time and credit to actually work on my startup in school and learn from all the great resources that the university has to offer.
I've wanted to be in this class since it started.
This is what I came here to do, build a startup and take it to the next level.
This class has been amazing.
I love it.
So we do a demo day at the end of the year, every year, for all the student startups. And so if you are going to be in Austin, that next one's going to be May 5th. We've had a bunch of great speakers for that. That was Mark Cuban and Bob Metcalf. I think for this one next coming up, we have Mike Maples, who's runs Floodgate, one of the top VC firms out in Silicon Valley, who's just ranked, I think, number 14 or 15 on the Forbes list of all the top investors in the world. I'm just really excited to have him come. And people at UT, the one that really stands out the most is Bob Metcalf. Bob is the inventor of Ethernet and founder of 3Com. He's now a professor of innovation there. I was very fortunate to be able to teach that class with him, which I've done for the past 5 years now. And it was just awesome. When he came to Austin, you just felt it lift the whole city up like a bump. Anybody from Boston? No, that's where he came from last. I feel really bad for you guys. He's just fantastic, and he's both obviously just an incredible entrepreneur and investor, but he's just super nice and approachable and really helpful to everybody there, and he's really active. He's out around the community and at all kinds of events, and just really awesome. Another guy's named Ben Dyer. He was the founder of Peachtree Software, which was a major finance accounting package in the mini computer days. He's an entrepreneur in residence there. Another big thing at UT for us is the Dell Medical School, a new medical school that's launching, and that right there is Clay Johnson, who's the new dean. That's really putting a major emphasis around health tech and all kinds of health innovation here in Austin, that's going to drive a lot of other startup activity. Not just because of that, but over the past few years, health tech has become definitely our largest vertical here. We work with hundreds of companies in lots of different ways, but if you had to pick one vertical that's the biggest, I'm sure it's healthcare. And Minnie is the second in command at the medical school, and really the one in charge of innovation and startups and things like that. And so really glad to have her come to the university as well. Last thing at the university is Texas Venture Labs. This is a program targeted at graduate students to help them plug into startups and get real startup experience. And what's pretty cool about their version of Accelerator is they actually take real businesses from Austin, bring them in, and get a team of MBAs to go work on that and help them help do a project for the startup. So Capital Factory, I think we already talked about. I'm gonna play that one again. So how do I know what's going on? This is your quick thing of like, if I wanted to plug in, here's what to go do. I said more of it's on that link that I mentioned earlier today, but one thing is to sign up for the Startup Digest. Also, we have an Austin Startups Facebook group, which is definitely a key place to be. And then you can follow lots of things on Twitter, but the simple answer is if you follow me on Twitter, I'm constantly tweeting about what everybody else is doing. So the Startup Digest is a weekly email you get every Monday morning. It covers all the events coming up for the next 2 weeks here in the startup community. I help put that together. You can sign up at startupdigest.com/Austin. There's a little subscribe button, and you can submit events as well. Austin Startups Facebook group now I think has 11 or 12,000 members on it. This is really like the incarnation of Austin's startup scene online. If you want to find out what people think, that's the place you go post it, and you'll get lots of comments and people to give feedback and questions. If you want to find a good reference for a lawyer or something else, there's always a good place to post questions and hear from a lot of different people. And like I said, following me on Twitter is another way. So here's the summary of that blog post. I'm not going to go through all those here, but basically this is what it tells you. It obviously sign up for the Startup Digest. It tells you which Twitter accounts to follow, which Facebook groups to join, where to get your news, which coffee shops and happy hours to hang out at, which meetups to go to, and just in general can be really helpful for plugging in. So landing a job, this is going to apply for a lot of things around introductions. The best way to get an intro to anybody for anything is get a personal one to leverage your own network. And I think by instinct when I say that, most people who think they're leveraging their network, they're not. They're not going nearly deep enough. Your network is not just your parents and your last boss and maybe your teacher. It's going out to everybody that you know and really talking to a lot of different people and then asking them who they know. Right? Your network goes a few steps deep. And there's nothing better than getting an intro from somebody else. It's always better than a cold intro. But separate from that, I'd volunteer at different kind of events. That's a great way to get to know people and get your name out there. I'd post online, there's a bunch of Facebook groups and other places you can post your resume. We have the Startup Crawl, obviously, is a great way to meet companies and job fairs that happen here. And I'd hang out at co-working spaces and meetups where a lot of those people are. So there's some of the Facebook groups. Co-founder, that's another common question I get a lot. People looking to meet a co-founder. There's a co-founder meetup that's here every once a month. And that's a chance for you to get up and pitch your idea to a room full of people to look for founders. There's another thing called founderdating.com, which is a website as well as like an in-person event. And then it's different because instead of like a big pitch event, it's more like a small group discussions around different topics. And then really what I think is one of the best places to meet a co-founder is at a hackathon, at like a 3-day or 2-day or 3-day lock-in kind of thing. These happen, there's Startup Weekend and 3-Day Startup and Lean Startup Machine and Angel Hack and lots of different versions of this. But the thing that's so great about it is there's a self-selection process that the type of people that go to these are the kinds of people that want to start companies. And as far as like getting to know somebody, you can like go out to coffee with them a couple times or like do a bunch of other things, but actually putting yourself into this kind of time pressure situation where there's a limited amount of time and you have to work with limited constraints and you're probably going to stay up all night and like do a bunch of other stuff and then you get to see if you still like them the next day. That's like a really good way to find people that you want to work with and get to see what they can really do. So that's another great resource. And there's all kinds of different events like that where there's people hacking and working on projects and things that you can meet. Obviously, a big question people ask is how do I meet investors? We actually have a whole talk just about that. So this is the third Tuesday today. I guess it's Monday, but normally this is on Tuesdays. We do this for South by. It's the third. This is it today. The first Tuesday of the month, we do one just about how to meet investors. But here's the short story. Again, introductions are always the best. And so leveraging your network to try to get introductions to them. The best intro is from the CEO of a company that a VC or an investor funded. That's always like the most credible or best intro to them, not your lawyer. And then obviously hanging out at co-working spaces, that's a lot of the reasons people work here is because there's investors coming through here all the time, not just during South by Southwest, but every day. And that's a big part of what incubators and accelerators help with. They help to both prepare you to meet investors, get you polished up, and so that when you meet them, you don't embarrass yourself, and then also making those introductions and helping you to find them. And then finally, go where they are. Make an AngelList profile, which AngelList is a crowdfunding website that's kind of like LinkedIn, except it's for your startup to meet investors. So you make a profile for your startup, and you can find and meet investors through there. You can do office hours, which is a way to get short, 15, 20 minutes with different investors to get some feedback. And then obviously different events like the South by Southwest Accelerator that just happened this weekend here at South by Southwest. Here are all the different accelerators here in Austin. You can see that there's quite a few different ones, and they tend to focus on different verticals, so that there's some focus on tech versus health versus social good. They all give different amounts of money, they all take different amounts of equity, but there's pretty big variation among them. And in addition to that, we have one of the largest and most active angel groups in the country, the Central Texas Angel Network. They have more than 150 local angel investors, and they run a process approximately every 2 months where you can go apply, submit your company, go through a series of rounds of kind of narrowing it down to the final, I think, 4 or 5 companies that get to present to all the investors at the end of the cycle. So that's another great resource we have here in Austin. And that's what AngelList looks like. Here are all of the VC firms in town. I'm always editing these slides as I'm giving them because I give this every month and it's always changing. I'm going to take this one off because this fund is out of money. I know they're not investing anymore. Maybe I won't be able to take this out now. Oh wait, here we go. This one. But at the same time, that's the first time I've taken one off in a long time. It seems like usually I'm adding one in. And there's been lots of new funds being raised, and I know at least one other fund that's not listed here yet that's being raised this year, and I'm pretty sure there'll be another fund I don't know about yet that gets launched this year too. So we've seen a lot of growth of new venture capital firms, and also with the recent kind of bust up of Austin Ventures, which was one of the biggest firms in town, the VCs that worked there are now going off and starting their own VC funds. And as you can see, most of the VC funds in town focus on tech, and most of them are Series A. Most of them are looking to write a $1 to $3 million check to a company to help them get started. And most these companies, they're generally very unusual. They're funding something that does not have significant traction already. Like you've already got probably tens of thousands of dollars a month in revenue if you're a B2B service, and there's a strong team. So a couple last questions, then we'll open it up to Q&A. Where should I work? Obviously, I'm biased. I think working in a co-working space is a great place to start, mostly because of the other people that you're going to meet there. And then obviously it kind of goes all the way down to hiring a commercial real estate broker, subletting from other companies, avoiding as long as possible before you actually go sign a lease, because it's really hard to predict what you're going to need 3 months from now, never mind 3 years from now. So you want to try to keep things really flexible. And I'd stay downtown because Austin's startup scene and community is downtown, and it's the easiest place to go hire people. This map is showing kind of the downtown area, and all the flags are little startups that are here. And Capital Factory, where we are, is just right in the middle of that. We have an awesome downtown. You can walk everywhere downtown, and it's really where most companies are. The reason companies aren't downtown is because they run out of parking spots. That's it. They can't find anywhere. They have to go move further out. And we had a ton of co-working spaces. I think 2 just launched this month, TechSpace and Galvanize. Those are both downtown, Capital Factory and WeWork downtown. Lots of other ones on other parts of the city, and also that tend to focus on different types of communities. So lots of different options for co-working here in Austin. So last, before I open up to Q&A, I want to just close by giving an example from Paul Graham. Paul Graham is one of the founders of Y Combinator. And he writes a lot of great essays. One of them he wrote was about great cities. And he said, great cities all have their own unique identity or their unique ambition. And sometimes it's usually pretty obvious, I think. I'm going to let you guys guess. So can anybody imagine what Boston's unique ambition is? What do you want to be in Boston? Anybody, what's Boston really well known for?
Education.
Education? Yeah, why?
Because Harvard, MIT.
Because there are tons of universities, right?
Yeah.
Boston is a be smart kind of place. Good guess. All right. So what about Silicon Valley? Can anybody think what Silicon Valley is?
Howard.
Good job. Be powerful. It's not just about money. It's about making the biggest things in the world and changing the world, right? What about New York City?
Rich.
Be rich. You guys are good. Usually this is harder. It's really. Maybe you just have seen this before. It's really expensive to be in New York, right? Like New York, money makes New York go around. All right. This is an easy one. What about Hollywood? Somebody else. Going all down, right? It's Hollywood. Let's be famous. So see, this really works. All right, DC.
Hollywood.
I'll be corrupt.
Be an insider, right? You know, it's politics. You want to have the inside scoop. And so Austin, a good friend of mine named Bajoy Goswami, and he's one of the original community leaders here in Austin that really helped kick off the startup community as well. He says that Austin's unique ambition is to be yourself. That Austin it's keep it weird, do it your own way, find your own path. And I think that's really true. It's one of the things I love about Austin, and I think that goes really well with being an entrepreneur. I think that's one of the reasons why Austin is such a great entrepreneurial city. So if you like this kind of stuff, there's a great book by another great VC who also is one of the founders of Techstars, called Brad Feld, called Startup Communities. It's all about all these types of things about what makes a startup community work. And like I said, you can find all this online. The deck itself is on SlideShare. The videos are on YouTube. And that one link at the end is the one starting place you want to have for kind of like exactly what to go do next. So hopefully you found something interesting or helpful worth sharing about that. We'd love it if you would help tell other people about it. And happy to, we got, I think, probably about 15-20 minutes to answer any kind of questions you might have.
Question for you. So I missed the startup startup crawl, I guess, on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you say those happen? Or is that just kind of like a South by thing?
It's twice a year. So we do it basically to kick off South by Southwest, and we do it for the Austin Startup Week in October.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, and
we do job fairs besides that in between, but that's like it's like a mega job fair party.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And how often are those job fairs?
There's probably 2 other ones during the year, so it's kind of like quarterly.
Okay. And those would be found, like the dates would be found like on your LinkedIn or through your
it'll be in the Startup Digest, would be the first place, because that's where all the events are. But there's also on our website for Capital Factory, if you just go to Capital Factory/events, there's a listing of all the events coming up all the time.
Cool. Thanks.
I have a question. So if you have a startup, you have ideas, you have partners, you're working hard, what do you bring to the pitch? You were saying to bring, you have to have a product, it has to have people already using it, tinkering with it, but like seriously, what do you bring? Some people say, do you bring a full business plan? Do you bring a one-pager?
Bring to a pitch, like with an investor that you're meeting for the first time. Nobody writes business plans.
Okay.
Well, nobody reads business plans. Some people write them, but I wouldn't take the time to do that. If you're like opening a McDonald's, you can write a business plan. Like you understand all the different aspects of it, and you can model it out and predict what it's going to be like 3 to 5 years from now. Like a restaurant, there's lots of places where business plans are appropriate. Usually not with startups, because with startups it's usually just all bullshit. Like you're just making up a whole bunch of shit, and it's not. You have no ability to actually predict those things, and like so it's just a waste of time. And like I said, nobody actually reads them. So I wouldn't do that. I'd say what I would like to have. What I would recommend you have is effectively like a really good 1 or 2 pager that really talks about the key components of your business, the team, the product, the traction you have, a few other things like that. AngelList that I mentioned is a great example. If you just make an AngelList profile, it's about a page long and it's asking you all the questions that everybody wants to know, and like you can almost just print that out. So that's a really good start. Or that's when I was fundraising for my last company, I just sent people a link to my AngelList profile. That's what I would do, and that was my business plan. You want to, more importantly, you need to be able to talk about your business, and be able to talk about it in a way that makes sense and is clear, and that takes a lot of practice and a lot of experience. And then usually you would have some kind of a pitch deck that you'd be walking them through, and that's really just to guide your conversation. You don't want to, if you ever go into a meeting with an investor with like a 10, 15 page slide deck, it shouldn't be longer than that. If you get through the slide deck, like from the beginning to the end, and they don't stop, you just give the presentation and they don't stop you and you don't have any other conversations, that was a terrible meeting. Like you don't want to do that. It's not like you wait till I get to the end. No, like that's not a good meeting. You want to like open the first slide and they ask you a question and you start talking and you never make it through any of the slides. Like that's like a really, really good meeting. So the more that it's a conversation and you can talk about the business, the better. And really the slides are there to support you. Like, let me show you this slide. It shows that really well, or let me show this example or something like that.
Is there somewhere online besides Googling great pitch decks that you would recommend?
Well, again, I do another whole talk, which you can find online on that YouTube channel, that's all about intro to fundraising and how to meet investors, which talks a lot about this. But in particular, the one thing I'd recommend, if I was gonna, just one book, is a book called Get Backed. It's by Baer and Evan Loomis. It's not related to me. And they're actually both Austin entrepreneurs. It's a coincidence, they happen to be. They released that book a little less than a year ago. It's a bestseller right now. It's been doing super well, and it's a very prescriptive book about how to pitch investors and how to make your pitch deck. And it's not like, it's like, go do this, like, with examples and things like that. That's really good.
Most of the suggestions you gave for finding a job require that you're local. What tips would you have for out-of-towners?
I mean, there's somewhat virtual versions of those same things. I think the best way to find a job is to be local. It's like the best. It's kind of like with people looking for investors. It's the same thing. They're like, well, I'll move to Austin if I find investors there. I've never seen that work. If you want Austin to commit to you, you need to commit to Austin. There's like a bit of that. The investors, it's not comforting to investors. I don't think it's quite as bad for employers because they do hire people from outside of Austin all the time, and there's talent's a big deal, and there are lots of people hiring. But I do think being here is the best way to make it really happen fast. Other than that, then you're more limited to more traditional ways, right? Looking at job boards, posting things online, emailing them, or research, kind of reaching out yourself, things like that. But one way or another, you want to make yourself stick out, right? And so a lot of the same other things apply. Using your network, that doesn't matter if you're here or not. I mean, you're gonna have a bigger network here if you're here, but there's no reason why your network might not extend there from other places. And yeah, I would say just if you can't be here in person, people do like commitment, So whenever you're applying for a job, if they know you really want that job, that makes a big difference versus I'm looking for any job, right? I think just the more that you can convey that and that you really want to be here, the better.
For the very earliest stages of a product or an idea that you're taking, what point would you say is it appropriate to really start looking for angel investors or even approaching incubators and things like that? What stage do you get most of?
You got a product and a customer.
Okay.
You built something that's actually useful to someone. Anybody else?
What percentage of the companies here at Capital Factory are paying to work in the co-working space and being invested by Capital Factory?
They're all paying to work in the co-working space.
Okay.
If they work in the co-working space, and we invest in companies that don't work in the co-working space, so that's not it's not a mutually exclusive kind of thing.
Got it.
And so everybody that works here pays. And then, so you said what percentage of companies have we invested in?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, because it's not the exact same thing. It's hard to say. It's not, the percentage probably wouldn't be the right number.
Right.
We made 31 investments last year.
Okay.
We are by far the most active investor in Austin. The next person probably made 5, or something.
Cool.
Can you talk about resources for building hardware, as prototype shops and that kind of stuff, or tech shop up further north, but other competitors to?
Yeah. I think I've got something on that here. Maybe. Hardware. So yeah, we got a bunch of basically hardware co-working spaces. Where they've got tools you can hurt yourself with, and things like that. And obviously, more importantly, people around there that know how to use them. We've certainly seen more and more hardware startups that we're working with and we're investing in, particularly around wearables and IoT. Those are very, very hot topics. IoT is really, really hot. So we have more and more of those companies. They're here as well. They're generally not building all those things here, but many of them are working here and we're investing in them. And then there's been, here are just some examples. I haven't updated this in quite a while, but these are just a bunch of the hardware startups that are here in town that are doing interesting things. Other questions?
Yeah, so my function is finance, and so when we're talking to a lot of the early stage companies, that's not really on the top of mind for them. They're looking more for kind of tech type talent or marketing or something. Do you have any thoughts on, finance in particular, or just generally the kind of, off-market type skill sets like that, or any?
It's
particular things that
just
you
not a
ask?
fit for startups. Like
Yeah,
startups, you can define all kinds of ways. Like Uber thinks they're a startup, right? They've got lots of finance people. But it's just you're not working with a really small company. You're generally probably working with a company that's funded, that has revenues, right, and has something to track.
Yeah, I mean, aside from just hunting those companies down individually, do you have thoughts on any particular methods that are you think are viable, or am I probably doing the right thing?
Not specifically, no. I mean, and again, really to just what I was saying before, like, decide on what you want.
Yeah.
Like, that question was so broad, like, I can't give you anything, but if you said, but the more specific you can be about what you want, the better answers you're going to get, and the more those other companies are going to be receptive to you, because they want someone that wants them. They want someone that wants to be there, not somebody that wants to be anywhere. So you may want to be anywhere, and that's okay, but you need to figure out how to talk about it like you want to be somewhere, and as you talk to them, it's about them and why you want to be there. But that would also help you to narrow that list down, right? If you said, hey, I'm really interested in this industry or this type of thing, or something like that.
Yeah, okay.
So what made you say yes to the 31 pitches last year?
So the way that we invest actually is pretty different. Sorry. So we accept companies into our accelerator. We bring about 5 companies a month in, about 50 companies a year. We're looking for a great team that's built a product and has a product that's useful to somebody, that a product and a customer. Is generally what we're looking for. And at that point, they don't get the equity they don't get any cash at that point, but they get access to the special network that we have, and they're able to go very easily book office hours meetings with all the different investors in our network. And then it's up to them. They have to convince 2 of the investors, 2 of the mentors, to personally invest $25K each. And if they get 2 of them to each write them a check, then our fund matches that with another $50,000. For the past 2 years, we've had 2 other VC partners who matched it with another $50,000. And then we run an AngelList syndicate on top of it, which usually brings in like another $100,000 to $200,000. And so what we try to do is basically take the momentum of the 2 mentors and multiply that. But it's actually up to the companies. The way we decide is they convince 2 of the mentors to invest. And that's what unlocks the money.
What type of opportunities are there to work on the investment side of Capital Factory?
We have an internship program, so we have interns every year that help us with some of some of the projects that we're doing. We're a fairly small organization. The investment side of it is it's like 2 or 3 people that are paid. I'm not paid. There's a bunch of other people that aren't paid, but there's 2 or 3 other people that are paid, and so it's not somewhere that we're constantly hiring for or anything like that. There are a number of intern spots, but we're the opportunities for working with Capital Factory generally tend to be more with the co-working space and the events and the other things that are happening here. But I'll mention this later. JD, who's in the back, is our venture associate. He'd be a great person to talk to if you're interested in the internships or other things like that.
One of the things I thought was interesting is that you're seeing a lot of people in their mid-30s, I guess, moving here that can't realize they're not going to get home. What do you think?
Not only, just like if I had to stereotype it.
Right. So I guess our community is kind of starting to face those challenges. And with our quality of life issues like traffic and everything, what do you see how that impacts the startup scene in the next decade? I mean, is that going to increasingly hurt bringing people here?
Well, sorry. Well, what?
So people in California, you're saying if they're coming here because of the price of their homes, so the challenges we're beginning to face here in this community. Do you see that impacting the people that the startup scene here?
No, that's all relative. Houses seem expensive to people that have lived here for 20 years. They don't seem expensive to anybody from California.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's not a problem. That's a local problem. That's like an affordability problem, not a California problem. It's them that are driving up the prices because they show up and they're like, this 5,000 square foot house is that much money? Like, and they pay extra for it. It's like that drives up the prices. So.
Are there any consistent characteristics that you've seen in successful startups that have come out of Capital Factory?
Obviously everybody's different and there's lots of different ways to be successful. I think, one of the things that we look for, at least of companies we like to work with, is when somebody challenges your business, do you immediately get defensive and tell them why they're wrong? Or are you excited that somebody might know something about your business you don't know and that might help you and that you could go figure out? And it's a completely different attitude. Most people are defensive. Cool.
With startups in the initial phases, where it's a smaller team,
Is it mainly the smaller team, they have to have really experienced people because it's smaller, or are there still places for people with more minimal experience in initial startups?
I think you'll find the whole range. Like, I mean, kind of in general, like, more experience is better, right? Like, do you want to have a team of really, inexperienced people, or like a team of like, I don't know, I guess I'd pick a team of really experienced people. But there's still teams of really inexperienced people that go start companies anyway. Mark Zuckerberg wasn't very experienced. I don't know, you got to figure out if you're a Mark Zuckerberg or not. But and same thing, all these companies that are growing, they have lots of different roles, and many of them might like to have somebody really experienced, but probably what they can afford is somebody that's not very experienced. And so I think, lots of opportunities for that.
What type of people are Austin's startups in need of? Like more business, more tech?
I don't, there's nothing that sticks out as like as far as like what everybody needs, it's the same things everybody needs. They need business and tech. They it's probably tech is harder. It's harder to find technical people and programmers and designers than it is to find salespeople or marketers. But there's nothing unique about that here. That's gonna be similar to, I think, most other places.
So you said that most of the companies that are being invested in already have a tangible product, they already have customers, they already have revenue stream. What about for companies?
All of them, pretty much.
All of them.
Yeah.
So what if you have an idea and you're trying to get to that point? Are there any avenues to get in touch with as far as like more small marketing agencies or just something to just even get you off the ground from nothing to a little bit, 1%, 2%?
What's the marketing agency gonna do for you that? I don't understand.
I mean, just help get word out or whatever.
I mean, it's for free, or that you're gonna pay for it?
I mean, I'm assuming you have to pay for it.
Yeah, well, there's lots of marketing agencies and people that will, if you'll pay them, will help you. And that's the kind of thing you go post Austin startups, like I'm looking for someone that can help me with blank, 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 and you'll get.
So posting on like that Facebook.
5-10 people will respond to different suggestions of people they've worked with and stuff like that. Cool. Yeah. I mean, you might find some that'll do pro bono work or work cheaper for startups or things like that.
Yeah. So on that note, I had a similar question. Yeah. So you mentioned, investors aren't gonna look at you. You need to have a proven revenue model. Let's say you're, X amount of users, some amount of revenue. So to get to that point, does Capital Factory have anything, whether it's like mentorship or other programs to kind of like, sort of, help you figure out like what is the benchmark that I need to like really drive for before I can even start, talking to those types of people?
We do. I'd start by saying like, you can go figure it out on the internet. Like, there's tons of great talks about what different stages and what people are looking for, and like, most of this information is out there. You should be able to get a pretty good sense of that just from these type, go searching YouTube and like finding stuff like that. Specifically, there is office hours network here at Capital Factory it's available to all the members, where every day there's people in here that you can go talk to. You can go sit down and tell them what you're working on and get some feedback. I do office hours, and I do a lot of them, so I do a lot of really short ones. Most people do them, usually it's like half an hour or something like that. I'll do like 2 hours of 10-minute meetings, just because I'm trying to meet. There's a lot of people that want to meet with me, and I'm trying to bang through them, and I can actually make 10 minutes pretty effective. And a lot of those are somebody that sits down and just like, that's one of the questions they might have is like, hey, here's where I'm at. Like, what do you think I need to focus on, or what do I need to do? But like I said, to be honest, I mean, you'll get better answers on the internet than because there's so much out there and there's so much stuff. So that's even when I started this talk, I said, it's just like, before you spend too much time doing everything else, just make sure you take advantage of what's out there, because there's so much great stuff that you can go teach yourself, and so many great, I mean, it's Mark Andreessen, or like, it's like the best investors in the world, and you can see what they're saying, right? And then triangulate that with what you're seeing here.
And those office hours are only for Capital Factory members?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of reasons. A lot of people who sign up for our base membership, the primary thing they want is access to the office hours.
So if you were to describe or stereotype a successful entrepreneur, like, you see and you're like, they're probably gonna have a really good pitch, how would you describe them?
Well, it's not.
It's
not like I look at them and I'm like, oh, they have a really good pitch,
you feel. How would you stereotype a successful or ground ground zero, he's coming in, he's hungry, she could be hungry, he, she, how would you?
They're focused on changing the world, not building a company. Like they're focused on, or let me say it a different way. They're focused on building a company, not selling a company. Like they're on a mission. There's something they want to go do. It's a problem they want to go solve. It's not a scheme for how they can go do something that they're going to be able to go sell later. And I think a lot of people, when you hear them describe it, it sounds like a scheme. It's like, like, here's this way I can make a lot of value and then sell it, and those work. I mean, I'm not saying we don't even fund something like that or whatever, but like, I think to me, the really successful people, it's not like a path to selling the company. They probably will sell the company. It doesn't mean they can't sell it. It's not that that's bad. That's just like, there's a different purpose and there's a passion behind that and other things, that all come with that. What else?
Is there anywhere else in Austin to like access seed funding, I guess? If I wanted to go work at Capital Factory right now, I could maybe work there for like 6 months and then deplete my bank account. So how do you access the seed funding to be able to afford to go move your company there?
6 months is a long time.
It's true.
You should get a lot done in 6 months.
Right. Enough to generate
Yeah,
revenue.
nobody gets seed funding to work at Capital Factory. That doesn't happen. So nobody's gonna give you any money, except like your mom or like somebody
Right.
without you having going and doing something. So if you can't do anything without that, then you don't have the right team. So that's where you're gonna start. It means there's someone else you need who can do that, who should be a partner, who's in it with you. Other questions? Was there anything you guys were hoping to hear today that you didn't hear? No?
How'd you get to be where you are today?
That's a long question, or a long answer. But I guess the short version of my story is I was studying computer science during the first .com boom in the mid-90s, and fairly accidentally started a company in my dorm room and didn't really know what I was doing and bootstrapped that business, but was able to grow it up to be big enough that I sold it someday. And that gave me money to start more companies and to start angel investing. And then as I did that, I realized that there were different kinds of angel investors, and that and then when I invested, I wanted other angel investors like me investing in the deal, and that was really a big part of starting Capital Factory, was getting together other entrepreneurs who are investors that really wanted to help the companies, and I bring that together.
How do you get to be a mentor here?
You have, you either have a resume that's totally obvious, like you built some billion-dollar company and you're like that's really easy. Most of the time, it's that somebody here, some of the startups or some of the mentors have worked with you, and they say, "Wow, this person's awesome. They would be super helpful to the companies here," and you want to, and you get some kind of a reference.
So coming from the other direction, where you're not a startup, you said you started a company and then you became kind of an investor. What are the ways to break into that if you're not going to do a startup? So if you want to invest in startups, obviously you can invest in funds like there's Techstars or different types of funds you can invest in, but what if you want to do that on your own? Or is that even a good idea?
Oh yeah, I mean, most of the people in our network invest on their own as direct angel investors. So that's the other half of what happens here. One of are you from Austin?
Chicago.
Chicago. Okay. The talk we do next Tuesday, not this week, but the next Tuesday is that we do every month is Intro to Mentoring and Investing, and so there's a much longer version of that, but the short answer is I would come ask to do office hours here, like guest office hours, and meet with startups that you want to see some startups you want to invest in, or just look through the ones on our website and try to look for ones. I'd join AngelList, and I'd look through the companies both in the industries you're interested in, as well as geographically the ones that are in your city that you're interested in. So it's like a big directory of startups where you can go find them and see which ones you like, and each one has a profile and like all this stuff about them that makes it really easy. Joining an angel group like CTAN. I'm sure there's an angel group, in Chicago as well. Yeah. It's a great way to be around other angel investors and to learn from their experiences, right? And have some of their help. One big advantage of the angel groups is they kind of get together and do the due diligence together. So you have feedback from a lot of different people, and And yeah, those are probably some good starting points.
Great, thanks.
Do you have another question?
Yes, so you said a customer and a product are pretty critical, that's where you need to start to build. Well, what if you're pitching a service?
To who?
Right, so you've got your customer.
Are you pitching it
See,
to
there's-
Capital Factory or to investors or what? So accelerators generally don't do services. But it depends what you mean by service, but it's like a consulting business or like that kind of
Right.
business. Yeah, that's usually not a fit for accelerators. You can get investors, but it's going to be a different group of investors usually. Just like kind of like restaurant investors are usually, it's just like I'm an investor in a couple of restaurants, but I'm not a restaurant investor. Like I work with tech startups, so that's what I know and that's what I can help with. There's other people like they do restaurants and they invest, or they're real estate investors, right? Like so you invest in things you know and things like that. And so the type of person that would invest in a services business is probably someone that's run a services business before, understands those businesses. It's a different type of investment. You're generally looking for cash flow, not for some big exit at the end. So they're going to want some kind of revenue share off what you do or something like that, or profit sharing. So it's going to be a different kind of investor, and not nearly as easy to find because there just aren't, because it's not as mature of a market. But most services businesses you can bootstrap, and most of them you should.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming. And I hope you guys all have a great South by Southwest. Like I said, we do a different talk like this every Tuesday. Sorry, real quickly. So JD in the back and Arij. So JD and Arij. JD is our venture intern. Sorry, he's our venture associate. Arij is our venture intern. So if any of you guys have any other questions, you want to talk about the accelerator or working here or anything like that, they also can answer questions too. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Just talk to them. I'm currently in a position of not committed, looking for an opportunity to do so. And to your point, like volunteering to do things and helping other people is the best way. If something comes up where someone from New York can be helpful.
Cool. Yeah, I think it'll be hard to volunteer for stuff from New York, but
you never know. Maybe there's an event out there and you're sending people over there or something.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Just met you earlier with Parminder, buddy of mine. Ahmed has joined you recently, so a bunch of people have come in Alatra. So anyway, I'm Captain and I've got a couple of mobile apps, one social, one Yelpification, but in a different segment. We're trying to generate some customers in India. We'll bring it to the US next month. But very initial stage, product almost done, going out to the market now. I want to have an early engagement with some folks who have really got credentials in the tech space, all that space, just from a mentorship standpoint, and later down the road, what do you suggest is right?
Sign up as a member. Cool. Use the office hours calendar. And that's what we have. Is a whole 150 different people that you can access anytime.
And does that, so is co-working different from a membership, which is access to, or is it one
There's
size
co-working
fits
and the
all?
accelerator.
Okay.
And so they both get you access to mentors.
Okay.
The accelerator gets you access to the investors.
Accelerator is
yeah. But you have to apply to be part of that. So the first step is come and you talk to the other experts and other people here and get feedback from them.
All right, I'll look it up and thank you.
Cool.
I was just wondering, are these slides I had to come to like, these slides available? Like,
Yeah, on SlideShare.
Oh, SlideShare. Great, I just catch what I missed. I didn't.
It's also all recorded on YouTube too.
Okay. Even better. So the two things I was kind of curious about that I think you touched on a little bit. So I'm on that kind of come from the sales and finance background. I've got a concept that I really like and I'd like to pursue it further. Trying to find just a community, and obviously there's big communities here for like find a co-founder, find other partners on this, because obviously on the tech development side I'm lacking in that experience. Do you have recommendations on both on finding co-founders and then on just early stage talks with like developers? I thought about UT interns, like guys in the. Just that are like affordable that I'm not gonna, just while I'm,
They don't know anything to talk about. But no, you want to become a member and meet with people that work here, and talk to, post stuff in the group, and meet people in the kitchen, and like talk to people here really nice.
Is that on there? What's like you say membership? Are you talking? I'm sure there's different levels. That's not what you said. Because you said when you said you need to have a partner or you need to have a customer and a product.
That was for the Accelerator.
That's for the
So
Accelerator.
you can sign up as a member without that and get access to some of those types of things. Okay. And the co-founder stuff I covered earlier, so I'd go check the video. There's a bunch of stuff there.
All right, great, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm Mike Wallace. I wanted to ask you a question. So when I was asking a question about the Accelerator, and like investing in a company, right? I guess what I was thinking of in my mind is like the brand in Cincinnati. I went to Miami, Ohio, and so we've done a little bit of So I was, is this set up similarly to that? Okay, that's what I was thinking. So I was just about in my mind.
Marketing and sales.
I mean, there are certainly some things that.
Right, yeah, well, it's similar.
Got
Got it, okay. Are there any like pure accelerators in Austin or no? Do you not have them? So, I guess Cabin Factory. Let me go to the factory.
We have an accelerator.
Oh, okay. So you do have an accelerator.
How long you been?
I've been here a little over a year.
Got it.
Cool.
Every other accelerator program is like a 3 month.
Where you moved from?
We're not 3 months.
I'm from Oklahoma, but I lived in.
So Capital Factory is just unique to that list of accelerators.
Okay, I went to Xavier.
Oh, really?
I actually work in health tech, so I saw their program.
Yeah, so I went to swim and it's kind of involved in
That's why I asked.
It's just so much fun.
I didn't know when you guys were down there. A few months at Capital Factory. I have 0 months.
Yeah, I was there.
Obviously.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So yeah, I know I'm down here.
Probably not sure.
What I'm doing in Austin.
So that's where I was thinking. It's really walk hard part.
Kind of, so work for a consulting staff. We're an actual company, me and two others came down to the Oklahoma office. So it's like, we're sort of in Austin kind of, but we're not, and they nationally are $150 million company. It's cool, it is great, it's more so like,
So it's like
yeah, recruiting and consulting, through like consulting side, I'm on that side, me and him are, and then the recruiters would go recruit consultants that work for us. So our question was, so we're from Cincinnati, we're Cincinnati, which is cool, you're there.
Oh, yeah, and like we say just reaction, we say reaction.
Yeah, and it's like, you can only see this customer, and that's if there's any of those here.
Huge spectrum, you have to filter it all through. And so I just think it'd be really interesting to be able to look at that.
Yeah, if you, every 3 months they run, shoot me an email and we got so like, yeah, like 3 months, they invest.
Yeah. Then you have that, you have the network kind of.
So yeah.
So are there any of those like that?
So everyone.
Besides.
Oh, besides.
So you have to go pitch to them essentially.
I mean, I guess it's gonna be
Yeah, I mean, with.
Yeah. Keep running around. Like you might have a product, you might have like an idea, it's like, okay, like it's set, and if they like it, you choose the program that you go after.
So like with startup accounts, the thing that the winner got to go work at the brand. Got like
Their idea.
Right. And their idea was just worked on for 3 days.
Yeah,
I mean?
exactly.
So it was super, super fluid. There was nothing really to it except for the idea of business model, lean canvas, but then there was nothing else.
Yeah.
It has like a basic prototype, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
Pretty sure they got accepted from
but it's good.
So then they got to work there for 3 months. So it's like, they take a percent.
7% or whatever. A lot of them,
7%.
a lot of them like between 4 and 12 hours.
Yeah. So then they take equity in the company and then 4%, 7%. And then with that, they invest in you going to work for the company. Like you're bringing your company there to go work at whatever that.
Right.
So it'd be like, is it, let's say this is the place we're talking about, essentially like, if you were one of the 10 companies that
Right.
get funding, you would work here for 3 months and be like a boot camp, like literally for 3 months every day, all day.
This
You're
is
working on your
your
business,
job is to come
and at
work.
the same time, they're connecting you, so it's like a way to do it for free.
Right, right.
They're paying you, you just have to win, you just have to be selected among.
Right.
The ideas.
But-
So that's why I was confused why I asked the question, what percentage do they like? Because with that, you don't have to pay to go work there.
Right,
Yes.
right, right.
Yeah, this
Well,
is
you're
different.
paying with
You're paying
equity,
equity,
right,
right,
yeah,
You're paying with equity, yeah, but here you're paying with equity and
And-
money.
Right.
And
So
so
it's-
you're paying equity of nothing.
This
Essentially.
sounds,
And so it could be.
this reminds me of like,
Equity of a huge thing or nothing.
yeah, this reminds me of like MBA, where like you're paying money and like the reason MBA programs are so expensive is because of your network that you get.
Right, right.
That's like the.
Yeah, I
you know,
definitely see the-
it's like here you get your
value,
network.
but, like, to me, I'm like you guys just like, yeah, you bootstrap it. I'm like, dude, some
But
getting
wait,
some of
by
this
the
shit.
way,
off your
so
ass.
bootstrap just means off the ground.
Yeah.
So it just means like you
Well,
have like.
well, you
you
just
work,
you're
you have,
grinding. Yeah, you're just doing it all
you
yourself.
do it yourself and you like have a little bit of revenue coming in or whatever.
Yeah. But like, dude, if you're depending on like how like tech dependent you are, like, you know, some of the like, you could have no revenue until you spend. Like, your upfront cost could be like $30,000 to like $100,000, $200,000. I mean, depending on what your app is, or if you're whatever you need, like, just to generate that revenue. So I'm like, that's pretty tough. Like, you know, that's
Snapchat wasn't making revenue for what, like years.
Right.
And then they were valued at $4 billion before they even
Because
did
of the
revenue.
users, yeah.
Right. But like, how did they get to that point? They weren't.
I think it's word of mouth a lot.
But what I'm
But
saying is like, how did they get interest? They had investors backing them.
Oh,
They had
yeah.
hundreds of millions of dollars in investments prior to that. So we should probably do that.
Yeah.
Hey, what's your, I don't have a car, I don't have my car.
Yeah.
Where are your cars?
They're in my bag. They're in my bag. Do you have another one of your cards I can put my information on?
Yeah.
Sorry. I've been so bad lately about cards, man.
I'm always bad about cards.
I need to get more beers, by the way.
Yeah. I think I got 10 years. So, thank you. Put my cell on here as well.
Yes, sir.
You don't feel like this on just the back of that. Yeah. Cool. Sam.
Yeah, man. Are you guys going to the happy hour thing, or what are you guys?
I know, I've got a little double date happy hour action going on, so
really?
we're gonna head out for that.
Nice.
I'm heading out as well. Are you going to?
I was thinking about it. I didn't really like RSVP for it, so I figured that.
Yeah, neither did I. That's
Go
what I
back
figured.
into it. I like, yeah, I'm glad you, at least make contact with you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are lucky.